Well, the final show. Yep. Okay, we're going to get started. I'm ready. You ready when you are? Okay, the Charter Township of Plymouth Board of Trustees regular meeting for Tuesday, July 9th, 2024 will come to order. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Stewart?
Thank you for coming.
Trustee Stewart, are you here?
I think you heard my voice.
Well, I didn't know if that was
I'm not going to be excessively obedient.
Okay.
Very well. Trustee Monahan?
I'm here.
Trustee Kermy?
Here.
Trustee Buckley?
Here.
Clerk Forba here.
Okay.
Treasurer Dorshevitz?
Here.
Supervisor Heisey?
Okay, I'm here too. All right, Pledge of Allegiance tonight. How about led by Jason Vorva?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Next is approval of the agenda.
Mr. Supervisor?
Mr. Clerk.
I move for the approval of the agenda for Tuesday, July 9th, 2024.
Okay, motion is made by Clerk Vorva. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Treasurer Dorshevitz. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next is item D, approval of the consent agenda. Comments, questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain them. Yes. Who reviewed the bills for this month? Jennifer Buckley.
Mr. Supervisor?
Mr. Clerk.
I move for the approval of the consent agenda for Tuesday, July 9th, 2024.
Okay, motion's made by Clerk Vorva. Is there a second? Second by Trustee Monahan. Don't think we need
No, we
any
don't.
resolutions tonight. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, item E is public comment, limited to 3 minutes. Mr. Dorshevitz will activate the clock. Okay. And Laura, do we need people to sign in tonight? Okay.
Ready? Greetings, esteemed board. It is an honor to speak with you tonight. I am Andrew Miller. I live at 8831 Mansion Avenue and have lived in Plymouth Township for 30 years. In the lawsuit of Northville Downs LLC versus Plymouth Charter Township, paragraph 19, I quote, Heisey explicitly told John and Mike Carroll that both the Planning Commission and the Board of Trustees would absolutely vote as Heisey directed them. In paragraph 20, I quote, Heisey bragged that through his political influence and control, he would be able to secure the unanimous vote of the Township Planning Commission and likely a 6-to-1 vote from the Township Trustees, noting that one vote he would not be able to secure would be Trustee Chuck Kermy, who Heisey described as his nemesis. So, members of the board, are you just a cog in the Heisey machine without a thought of your own that Heisey allegedly brags about? Or are you rational citizens looking out for Plymouth Township citizens? This evening, you have a chance to prove the Carlo brothers correct or show that you can be an independent vote that will support the taxpayers of Plymouth Township. We all support our fire department, and we are lucky to have Huron Valley Ambulance as part of the Plymouth Township team protecting us. HVA is a nonprofit organization that transports roughly 1,100 people a year for Plymouth Township at no cost to Plymouth Township. HVA approval rating is 94%, and not one of the Plymouth Township government has ever reported an issue to HVA. Because of the Huron Valley size, we have access to their special equipment like intensive care units and equipment that is that can handle highly pathogenic cases. During the COVID scare, HVA transported most of the COVID cases, allowing our paramedics to stay and concentrate on fire suspension. Last year, the nonprofit HVA collected $790,000 in revenue and spent $812,000 in expenses that resulted in a $22,000 loss. Today, you will be asked to approve 9 additional full-time paramedics And later, you will be asked to cover the cost of 3 additional ambulances and costs to support those workers. The cost of the 9 employees alone will be about $1.3 million a year, which is much more than the $790,000 revenue. Costs for 3 new ambulance and supporting structure will further push the project into the red. Our current no-cost service will turn into a tax burden. Even more importantly, our security redundancy with HVA will be gone, and access to their special equipment will not be available.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
It's on.
Then you need to speak closer to it then.
My name is Paul Scholes. I live at 9115 Corinne in Green Meadows. Good evening, Mr. Supervisor, Clerk, Treasurer, and Trustees. Tonight's meeting will decide on our township's most important services, more specifically, our ambulatory services. Our health and safety is the greatest concern of our township residents. For many months, Mr. Heisey, you have made it clear that the public-private partnership with Huron Valley Ambulance and our fire department would be dismantled, and a fully funded fire department would replace the current model. This decision will require purchasing a fleet of new ambulances, extensive increases in trained paramedics, trained ambulatory paramedics, trained ambulatory dispatchers, as well as maintenance of these vehicles. Unlike our current partnership with Huron Valley that costs taxpayers nothing. Mr. Heisey, your decision to eliminate HVA will add to your long list of failures as a supervisor. And those who support your agenda, your puppets, will be held accountable by the voters. The foolish decision to disrupt a flawless system that is currently operating perfectly shows your malfeasance. I fully support our public safety and the best interest of our community. This decision is not in the best interest of our community. In fact, it's destructive to our community, just like the racetrack. This model will cost taxpayers millions of dollars and result in a significant tax increase. It's very irresponsible to force this upon our township residents. This will be another one of your career politician blunders. I would clearly rethink your agenda, Mr. Heisey, before your vote on it tonight. And Mr. Dorshevitz, Mr. Vorva, Ms. Buckley, and Monahan, you have the power of your vote to stop this. Make our people your priority. Save HVA. And vote Scholes. Thank you.
Okay, no apology. That's right.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Paul Hood, and I'm from HVA.
Yeah.
Thank you. HVA is a long, successful partnership with Plymouth Township dating back to 1991. I worked the first paramedic ambulance out of the station in 1991 and have been heavily invested in the community ever since. It's important to consider the benefits of our partnership before taking on more costs for the citizens of Plymouth Township. There have been some misinformation, and I wanted you to have all of the information before making your decision and knowing all of the facts. HVA has excellent response times. We've met or exceeded the response time standard in our contract for the past 3 months, and our response time standard has been 92+% of the time. We provide service to residents at no subsidy and no additional cost to the township. While HVA is transporting patients, it frees up Plymouth Township's fire department's ability to respond to fire, emergency medical calls, mutual aid calls for neighboring municipalities, as it currently does. HVA transports patients to their desired destination. Many of our transports go to Trinity and Ann Arbor, allowing the Plymouth Township ambulances to remain in the township and not 35 minutes away. HVA employs high-quality paramedics to provide the level of care that keeps the patient satisfaction scores at or above 90%, which we have been for the past 30 years. We measure this, and we would encourage you to do the same. We provide system of care with our neighboring communities that stops the fragmentation of the EMS system, allowing us to be able to cross borders and be able to take patients and lower our costs to everybody as a whole. We are nationally accredited, and I would encourage you to do the same. Plymouth Township will incur a number of costs by adopting the CBA tonight, which effectively cancels HVA's contract, although we currently have a contract in place with Plymouth Township until December 31st. These include hundreds of thousands of dollars of personnel, equipment, and rigs, all of which are provided at no cost today. I would encourage the members of the board to consider these costs and the quality of that HVA consistently provides for the last 33 years. We are in no way bashing the Plymouth Township Fire Department. They are good people. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Bill Pine, 46-year township resident. Tonight's agenda defines why you, Kurt, are a problem, a politician with politician self-serving mentality. The vote on the fireman CBA is a planned maneuver to box in candidates to support an agenda that you most likely initiated at the risk of the residents to gain the fireman union support. How unfortunate that you planned for your future, but put the absolute life or death of the residents' future on the table. You are aiming to put the township into the ambulance transport business. You profess that property and business owners have rights while you hypocritically try to push an essential free service out of our community. This is reminiscent of your business township confusion when the voters turned down park and being landlords. Are you looking for a millage vote? Have you revisited the 2010 study that recommended not getting in the ambulance transport business? Have you benchmarked firemen from Canton and Westland? The most salient point is that HVA provides the residents with dynamic retasking of ambulances after runs, which intrinsically no fire department can do. As a no-brainer, this service is free to the township and does not affect the tax base as extra firemen will. More importantly, to deny the community a backup system for your own campaign is dereliction of duty. The CBA test is a litmus test for all of you and a trap that, Kurt, you unwittingly set up for yourself. The agreement supposedly looks at the now and assumes that the township will not be able to get more firemen hires and that you are not voting on the future. Here's the gotcha. Your job is to plan for the future of the township, not your own future. Your job is to make health and safety a top priority. Your CBA initiative violates resident safety. Clearly, we have seen only one board member analyze this and plan for the future of our community. The economy changes, employment trends change. This you ignore. You've been trying to court the union and get rid of HVA for years. Kurt, you've painted yourself into a corner. A vote for the CBA for the 20-something firemen, most of whom don't live here, is a slap in the face to all 28,000 township residents. Our safety does not matter to you. Our future is no concern to you. This is a pattern of scheming and disregard, just like the racetrack, the waste treatment plant, and smart meters. Smart meters have well-documented medical concerns for everyone. Heart patients with pacemakers, brain injury victims, folks with central nervous system diseases, kids, and senior citizens. Should all of these be ignored for your uninformed, uncaring benefit or that of a few employees? Resident, it's time for a change of township leader that prioritizes resident safety concerns. Vote to rid our township of politicians and their teams conniving. But as all of you know, a yes note on the CBA as written reveals your hand and disdain towards residents and voters, as written. Those who don't ratify the CBA at this time can be heroes who see the long-term future implications for residents. Kurt, you can remain the problem maker. And firemen, we love you. It's just that we want to have this done on a rational basis. Thank you.
Hi there. Marcy Becker. Whoops.
Marcy Becker.
Tough act to follow. Mr. Supervisor, we are flooded with your campaign flyers, some personally placed on doors that are clearly marked no solicitation. What a waste of time and money when you could have attended the Concerned Citizens Q&A for free and done your pitch. Your board has provided us with endless entertainment this summer and drama in recent months, cheeky comments heard on tape and distasteful rhetoric and now slander from which you will not recover. Look and listen. In this current climate, it is not what the Plymouth Township citizenry wants. You don't appear to be listening. Maybe you've outgrown this township you serve. We all will vote for a new board on August the 6th, and we will hold the new board accountable to higher standards. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Diane Belowis. Let me sign in here.
Speak loud.
Can you hear me? No?
And how did you hear that?
That better?
There you go.
Desperation. Desperation is the first word that comes to mind when I look at how hard you've been working to discredit and slander your opponent, Kurt Heise. I have never in my life received 4 political flyers from a candidate in one day until your disinformation arrived in my mailbox. You and the rest of your turnaround team, except for Bob Dorshevitz, were no-shows at the candidate forum at the library. You canceled your coffee and conversation at the senior center, but you have no problem mailing disinformation. It appears quite obvious that if you can't control the situation, you'll just be a no-show. I made a post on Nextdoor about the absentee ballots arriving in the mail recently. One woman asked for clarification on the racetrack issue. She said that she was told by you that the racetrack was a done deal and won't be coming to Plymouth. She stated that you told her the property is for sale and they're moving to Fowlerville. Is this the disinformation you and your team of door knockers are spreading in the township? This racetrack is far from the dead horse that you mention on social media. Why would anyone with the qualifications you boast about be so desperate to maintain their supervisor position when you could make more in the private sector? There appears to be some manipulation going on, and many residents are being left in the dark by your desperate attempt to keep the true facts from them. I personally feel that both you and Jerry Vorba are morally and ethically unfit to be reelected to represent the citizens of the township. The rest of your turnaround team and those that you are supporting for election, minus Chuck Kermy and John Stewart, are questionable as well. When a politician has to surround himself with a hand-picked board, we need to question why. The old saying, follow the money, appears to ring true here. There is far more going on than what we are selectively being told. Township citizens deserve far better than what we presently have. What has happened in the township for over a year now is so blatantly wrong that I can't just sit back and let it continue without speaking out.
Okay.
I possess a working moral compass, and I will continue to speak out because there appears to be a promise made that can't be kept unless you are reelected.
Okay, your
That
time,
wouldn't
ma'am-
bode well
ma'am,
with
your
your
time is up.
slogan.
Your time is up.
Promises made, promises kept.
Thank you.
would
Your
occur.
time is up, and I know there are other people who would like to
Thank you.
speak. Thank you.
I'm Dale Bernhardt. For the past year and a half, I've observed that Supervisor Heise is extremely angry and vindictive. Pose any hint of opposition and he will slander you through any means. But that's not the scary part. The scary part is he manages our township affairs with this anger. His hatred for people with differing views drives him to irrational and make bad decisions. A few examples. Supposedly negotiations with Northville Downs were going nowhere, so the attorney for Northville Downs made contact with our board. That made Heisey angry. So Heisey had our attorney write a letter to their attorney. Then Heisey recommended to rescind the PUD, which was set to expire on its own in about a month. That action prompted Northville Downs to sue our township for $10 million plus. Now Heisey is hoping the suit is in pause mode until after the primary in August. The Planning Commission rejected Meyer's desire to build their store on 5 Mile. So Heisey got mad. He gets campaign contributions from Redical, the developer, for Meyer. He told Meyer he would help them sue our township. So they did, and Meyer got their store. Salem Township has had in their master zoning plan an urban services district since the 1980s. So a project within that district called Salem Springs needed wastewater disposal through Superior Township, not Plymouth Township. Heisey got involved and helped convince the court to turn down the application to tap into Superior's line, which left Salem Springs no choice but to build a treatment plant. Residents on the west side, Heisey is not your hero. He created this mess. Why? Because he has a large and long hatred for the developer and lobbyists. At this point, Eagle has no constructive issues with the treatment plant. Heisey has lied to you. If Eagle says yes, Heisey cannot stop this plant. He has no influence over it. Heisey hires people to work with him that are the same way, vindictive. His economic development coordinator told residents that his job is to fill every available open space, and if you don't like it, he'll put something there that will make you cry. Sounds like Heisey to me. Heisey's anger and desire for retribution is not just a flaw, it is a defect, a large one, and it clouds his judgment, which in turn is going to destroy our community. Residents, this man is not fit to run our township. And by the way, Mr. Heisey, I've collected many of your nasty, aggressive, and threatening posts about me. They are now with the police department. And I'll be waiting for your barrage of posts on social media tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Have him come up here.
Yes, good evening. May I please get a show of hands if,
Okay,
you, think that an officer who used excessive use of force and stole my $600 Benchmade knife, which was found in his police trophy bag 10 days later after it was taken, evidence bag staying safekeeping. This officer used excessive use of force as well as aggravated my injuries. I should have just was in the military as an E3. I had 3 years ROTC. Rather, I was trying to do Air Force ROTC in college. And no, I'm nothing. I mean, what type of city is this when a police officer steals no punishment? I mean, they'll give you, if you don't completely stop for a traffic ticket, they'll issue a citation. And working for my additional duties as a correctional officer 3 was I was a riot team member and the shift safety officer are the trained officers and offenders. But now gone. I mean, I was laid back, I'm sure. If you see me in a community, I stay alone, isolate myself due to my PTSD. I would like to make a formal, if possible, I don't know the standards of that officer as well as his sergeants were guilty of numerous high felonies. I just don't understand why. I mean, I'm trying to get my pension back, but it was in Austin, Texas, and approximately 2 years earlier it was ran by Wackenhut Corrections Corporation, which is a private agency, and anything and everything was happening.
Hey, Todd.
The state had to take over.
Todd? Hey,
I would
Todd.
like to make raise a hand for official, if you would like
Okay.
to get a correct affidavit signed.
Okay, Todd.
For if you believe that a police officer should not steal your $600 bench made knife, will you please raise your hand, ladies and gentlemen?
Todd, can you look over at me, please? Todd? Todd? Todd, can you look over at me? Hi. It's good to see you again. Hey, I know you've got some concerns. Can you talk to the police chief perhaps after the meeting? Can you do that?
I mean, I'm just trying to
We got a lot of people here tonight, though, that want to
invoke
talk.
my right of quiet enjoyment. I'm not sure if that
I understand.
supersedes going out of your house, but my right of quiet enjoyment has been trampled on.
And you know, Todd, I'm not going to argue that with you, but our police chief is here and he wants to listen to you, okay? So if you can hang around.
Which he instructed me.
Pardon me?
I told him I want to make a criminal complaint.
Yeah, I know.
And he refused.
All right,
He
well,
says, "Turn it over."
I think the chief needs more information from you, so why don't you?
You have access to the database,
Okay, I don't, because that's not,
the Michigan
Okay.
Commission
Yep.
of Law Enforcement.
yeah, we know what that is. I'll tell you
So
what, though,
has that
we've got
has that officer been
okay,
red tagged?
okay, Todd, we've got to
Yes,
move
sir.
on, we got to move on. And I've given you a lot of time here
I'll tell you
tonight,
what.
and I think you need to sit down and talk to the chief, okay? Can you schedule a meeting with him, or maybe talk to him out in the hallway? Even right now, that'd be fine. Can you do that? Okay, buddy? All right,
Appreciate
good.
your time, man.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Todd.
If a simple knife can
Yep.
disappear,
No, we understand, buddy, okay? Talk to the chief
That's
about it, okay?
acceptable.
That's what he's here for. He wants to help you.
higher price items,
Okay,
you will lose to the police,
okay,
for the police program.
all righty, okay, all right. Okay.
Hello, my name is Eileen Coleman. I'm a lifetime resident of Plymouth Township. And here we go again. Here we go again, the same argument, the same thing coming up again with trying to get rid of HVA. We already argued this. How long ago was that, Mr. Heisey? 2 years ago? We made all the arguments and you actually accepted the arguments. They are as follows. Keep HVA and keep us safe so the firefighters do not have to leave our town. They don't have to go to U of M or St. Joe's far out of our town, leaving us empty and void of firefighters. HVA they're experts. This is their field. This is all they do is transport. This is all they do is life-saving care to patients in distress and in trouble. Firefighters have a whole lot of things they're responsible to do. It's much better to have experts available where this is all they do. We do not want our firefighters out of our town creating a void for potential emergencies. You will be held accountable when we're taken to close by hospitals and not given the best care. We want to be able to go to the hospital of choice, not St. Mary's. And you know that you're not as safe going to St. Mary's. I'm a nurse by background. I know their reputation. Don't vote for this.
Hi, Mary Ann Adams, 28-year resident, Ridgewood Hills. Kurt, in spite of what you were saying about the lawsuit being frivolous, the Northfield Downs lawsuit, I understand how much at risk this township is of having a gambling facility very near my home. While the property is up for sale, your claims about the Carlo brothers negotiating with Handy Township have been discounted by a call to Handy Township Supervisor Ed Alverson, who indicated recently that no one from Northfield Downs has contacted him regarding locating a racetrack in their township. Further, I will also continue to engage the Michigan Gaming Control Board to stay atop any requests for licenses from Northfield Downs. If you say that a motion to dismiss will be filed in a few weeks, as you indicated back in May, that's what we expect to happen, particularly if the civil case filed by the Carlo brothers is frivolous. You can't say one thing publicly and then say something different in other forums like our board meetings. We want transparency, honesty, and integrity, not deflection, name-calling, or bullying. Secondly, we are not on the side of Mike Cox or the Carlo brothers. From what I have learned personally about the horse racing industry over this past year, I am appalled by it, that it exists anywhere. And as my generation and the generation before me moves on, younger generations have indicated they are not only in opposition to this so-called sport, but if they gamble, they have a phone to do that. We know that Mike Cox has contributed to your political funds along with other horse racing entities, including the Carlo brothers. Masking political donations in exchange for favorable decisions seems illegal to me. So culpability abounds. The strategy around filing for dismissal seems to me to be centered around the election and any hope and a prayer that the property will be sold. Interestingly, we haven't heard anything more about Nels Hydrogen and when that facility will start breaking ground. Your comments recently about not being aware of the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of a racetrack can easily be followed up in that same document with governments deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. You are the supervisor. We have lawyers representing the township. But here we are, the residents, continuing to be left out as we were when we were excluded from one of the most consequential decisions that will forever impact our community. Northfield Downs is not welcome in our community, and it must not cost residents dearly. This is your mess. Get it cleaned up.
It's our race.
Good evening, trustees.
Good evening.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Bob Miller. I want to shift gears and rewind back to the planning board meetings that seem to have the a lot of the same members on it, on the Pomeroy Toll Brothers development. I need some clarification because that's basically right behind my house. It was my original understanding that the through road was going to be General Drive. And now I'm hearing, no, it's actually going to be East Side Drive. I'd like to know if that's being paid for by Toll Brothers or Pomeroy. Who's in charge of that road? Is it the county or Plymouth Township? And also, what's going on with the planning for the increase in traffic onto Ann Arbor Road and onto Ann Arbor Trail? It seems to me that that's never really been cleared up to my satisfaction. So I'm asking anybody on the board who would like to address that to please do so tonight. There's a lot of residents back there that would also like that information. And I don't think that we've really got a handle on it. I'm speaking extemporaneously tonight because I don't want to bore you with a lot of words. But I would like to give a nod to my friend Ken Garner over there, who, you may not know this, but was related to John Nance Garner, former Vice President of the United States under President Truman. Just a little backdoor. I thank you for your help.
Bob, here's my card. If you could send me an email in the morning, we can try to answer some of those questions.
Is there?
Like, we can put you in touch with our planner.
I'd also like the input from.
Well, yeah, but we want to put you in touch with the experts on that. Okay.
Do you have the pen, sir? 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 Do you have the pen? Right here? The pen, right there. Is that the pen?
Oh, the pen.
Yes.
Watch out, there's the chief. Be careful.
Hello, my name is Joyce Janicki, and I'm back again. First, I'd like to share the numbers of U.S. racehorses, standardbreds included, who have died while in training, while racing, or in their stalls. There are 130 U.S. racehorses dead so far in 24, 895 in 23, 917 in 22, 982 in 21. More statistics are available. However, I believe you get this very, very unpleasant picture. Most data on deaths is hard to come by, and most must come through FOIA, for these are not exactly the numbers racetracks wish to share with the public. And let's not forget that because horse racing is so incredibly abusive, a federal agency has now been set up to monitor racing practices. Yes, it's true that harnessed racehorses don't break down so often on the track. However, nearly every single one of them experiences bleeding of the lungs with blood running from their noses and mouths, and they have to receive Lasix injections in order to mitigate this. In fact, before harness races begin, there's a designated time for these animals to receive their Lasix. Standardbreds also endure much longer racing careers, which lead to damaged muscles, bones, and nerves. And these horses are also whipped while racing, and many develop harsh, visible welts. This has happened at Northfield Downs. Many harness horse races are abandoned when winning ceases. Aftercare is hard to come by, with horse retirement farms existing on grant money and donations. And with horse adoption programs generally operating with no oversight, it's now necessary to employ an accreditation process for aftercare facilities. Standardbreds are also sold to individuals who drive buggies, and these animals are sent to slaughterhouses in Canada and Mexico. There is generally not a happily ever after for these harness horses. After hearing all the above, this board must be relieved to have said no to Northville Downs. However, sadly, this issue is not by any means over. This board has a history of reaching settlements in lawsuits, and the specter of this highly abusive entity being constructed in this community still looms.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we have Mr. Larkin. Do you want to just come forward real quick? I know you wanted to speak and you made a request before the meeting started.
Yeah, I'll just jump.
Okay, all right.
No, okay. Hello, you guys know me. I'm Ken Garner. I live in Plymouth Township, and I'm here to make a complaint. People, you don't realize that years ago, you're looking at the picture that Mr. Kurt Heisey and some of the other guys were there after we, the people, back in 2016, voted him and get him this job that he's got now. Okay? We got rid of about 4 people that year. Okay? He promised us that he would work with us. Okay? And he's setting up here right now complaining about people, Kermie and other people in this whole area. And I guess that we have a girl running for...
Ken, we know each other. Can you address
No,
the
I'm
board?
going to talk the way I want
Can
to
we
talk.
address?
Now, I'm
you have
not
to
going to
address
listen
the
to you
board.
anymore.
You have to address
We
the board.
listened to
Ken.
what you want, and you turned on us.
You have to address the
You
board.
turned on us. I wouldn't even be up here.
You have to
I
address
would
the
not be up here. I got
addressing the
along
board.
with you guys. You know I worked here for 5 years. So don't come up here. And this is what I'm trying to tell these people. We trusted you, and that's what I'm upset about. And you have the audacity to go down here and complain about all these people, and half of them are lies. Because you know that I got the biggest site in here in Plymouth. I got over 7,000 people that read my stuff. So I think it's time that you clean your act up, stop going after Kermie, and stop going after all these other guys. It's time. And people, please, I don't mean to be this way, but this is what he's done. And this makes me upset when you work your rat off and do this to us. Thank you.
Okay. Larkin's not interested.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Kurt Heisey, Mary Pine, Kurt Heisey, Jerry Vorva, and others have demonstrated a lack of fiduciary duty to residents, simply put, a duty of loyalty and care. As shown by Kurt's Facebook challenges to Myers to bill him on advice to sue the township, and stating in the League of Women Voters interview his clear intention to prioritize the property rights of business owners while ignoring due diligence, zoning laws, and the master plan for the residents, with the resultant $10 million lawsuit. Kurt has mentioned a settlement date for this lawsuit, which translates to having a casino racetrack, our property values going down, our taxes and traffic flow going up. Since in a recent podcast, Kurt states that Downs couldn't find the needed money, and that he is friends with their lawyer, Mike Cox, this leaves little to the imagination regarding the sudden denial and demand for $10 million to build the racetrack. Is there a word for this? With such blatant ethical disregard, the residents have a civic duty to be informed and vote accordingly, since the nonpartisan survival of our family community is at stake. You can't legislate morality, but you can vote out unethical and immoral behavior, such as Jerry's passing around a fatal MVA accident photo, which is illegal in several states, the chastising of citizens, the repulsive immature social media posts and the threats that started after the Northville Town meeting, continuing to this day. This creates disorder and negative culture in our community. We realize that time is a luxury for younger families as we raise 5 children. Now, as empty nesters, many have taken on the chaos that Kurt, Jerry, Bob, and their chosen have subjugated the township to, such as the east and west bookends of truck traffic with little data and no planning on traffic flow, the immature, threatening drama of social media sniping of business desires at the expense of residents, setting bad examples to youth, Kurt's erratic outbursts at the sewage plant meeting. Kurt and Jerry, this recreates discord in our community. Not a female trustee candidate who took over for Jerry for years when he had publicly acknowledged cancer and did so by knowing and following the law. This projection of your own smear tactics, bullying, and arrogance is shameful and ungrateful. Kurt and Jerry, you bring to mind the Wizard of Oz, conniving to pull the strings with board members and commission appointees and desperately attempting to deceive the residents. One can also see the scarecrow looking for a brain, the cowardly lion looking for courage, and the tin man looking for a heart. Data and analysis is not understood. Waffling to appease you, Kurt, is frequently apparent. Residents are chastised rudely. Chuck Hermie and John Stewart do not fit this analogy. Like Dorothy, the residents need their home again with no drama to the family community that we chose. We need to reverse the overreach of your career politicians. Chuck Hermie, Andrew Miller, Janai Stepp, Sandy Grove, John Stewart, Dan Callahan, and Paul Schutz understand the value of this community.
Good evening, Board, fellow citizens. The attack behavior against the opposition of this slate.
We need your name, sorry.
My name is Howard Hamrick,
Okay.
10306 Normandy Drive, Plymouth Township, 25-plus year resident.
Okay.
You can certainly look me up on Google and see all my credentials. I'll be happy to share them at any point in time. So we need to get back a couple minutes because you interrupted.
I just did. We just did.
If that's all right, if you, Chair Shevitz.
Just wanted your name for the record.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
This mic doesn't work very well, but I can out-yell it, so it's no problem from that standpoint. The attack behavior of this opposition of the slate is running scared. You're running from your record. You want to take credit for low taxes. The tax-paying property owners are responsible for the low taxes. A property sells, the value goes up, they pay more tax. The treasurer knows this. A property improves on itself using a permit process on taxable land, the valuation goes up. The township gets more taxes. New construction on taxable land, more revenue for the township. Every year, if you look at your tax bill, you get reassessed and you pay more taxes. So what did this slate do with your money? Our police, fire, and emergency services are funded by a millage we passed. A millage we passed. We did not have you support that issue. We passed it on a vote. So we're entitled to these services because we're paying for them. Our service providers are a dedicated team, but without us, the law-abiding, safety-conscious, cooperative residents, their jobs would be impossible and almost unattainable to achieve. Take a look at some of the cities around who have problems. This is very clearly a Plymouth community type of situation. Here's what you are responsible for. Fast-walking project unit developments. These are nothing but zoning variances through the Planning Commission and by your vote. Failure to adhere to the master land use plan. Setting up an agreement to pay the state of Michigan back for property they took over from the defunct and the bankrupt city of Detroit, the Hoco prison, and regional state prison a la Scott. That's state land. I pay state income taxes. I pay sales taxes. Why are we paying for cleaning up state land? Well, you came up with the agreement. That's why. You want to make us the hub for gambling in the state of Michigan. Engaging in extortion a la Mr. Cox in the lawsuit. Extortion's a felony, by the way, in case anybody doesn't know, in the state of Michigan. And then getting us into a $10 million lawsuit, which has been filed against us. You want to make us the shipping hub for the region. a la Haggerty Road, Ann Arbor Road, Beck Road, 5 Mile Road, North Territorial. Much pollution, trucks all year, all long, soon to be more because there's another development in that same general area. If this case is lost, the lawsuit I'm referring to, we will pay. Northville Downs will have their track here, or if it's settled, they will have their track here, and they're going to get the money to build it. Thank you for your attention. Stop-the-racetrack.com. Folks, it isn't over. Thank you for your attention.
I thought Larkin wanted to go.
It's up to him. I mean, I understand he has to get to another meeting, so.
He took the pen. Somebody took the pen. Thank you. Before we start, can you hear me? Just want to know what level that I need to speak at. Loud. Loud. Very good. Oh, I guess we did start. Okay. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to address the board and the residents of Plymouth Township. My name is Janai Stepp, and I've lived here for more than 25 years. Thank you to all the residents who came out tonight in support of HVA. Thank you for the residents who don't want the tax increase and have made their voice known today. We appreciate everything you've done to the people who spoke tonight. We appreciate the words that you said. We appreciate the facts that you've brought forward. We've heard so many things tonight, the reasons you don't want to get rid of HVA. You said that the residents, it will cost them dearly. You're right, it will raise their taxes. You're right, it will jeopardize their safety. You're right, this is not the right decision for Plymouth Township. We've also heard that the only reason it's being done is because the union is then going to vote for Heisey. He was able to put their name on his literature for his campaign. So is this whole thing putting lives at risk worth an election? I just can't believe that, but the numbers don't add up. The numbers don't add up. Lives are at risk. Taxes are going to go up millions of dollars if we get rid of HVA. Now, to the board. I've heard many of you say that in the past, mistakes have been made. Thank you for taking accountability for those. I'm addressing you tonight. Please don't make another mistake. Some things can't be rolled back. I know that people have put out literature that has said that government exists to help people, that they enjoy putting public safety first, that transparency is not a mindset. These are the things that directly conflict with HVA. The residents here are saying they want HVA, or they want more numbers. Let's not vote on this yet, is what they're saying. Actually, I have Bob Dorshevitz's card here that says he's listened very carefully to the thoughts and wishes of residents over the years. That's one of his key accomplishments. Thank you for that, Bob, and I appreciate you continuing to do that. His pledge actually says he will continue fighting the good fight, whether others stand with him or if he has to stand alone, that he will do his best to act with a pure heart, with honest motives, and show character and integrity. Thank you, Bob. I'm going to ask the board one more time to make the decision that the residents are asking you to make. Keep HVA. And can you please make this part of the public record? Thank you.
Is there anything for you to sign in?
Someone took the pen.
Pens keep disappearing, eh?
Oh.
Took the whole thing.
Thank you.
Good evening. Hello, my name is John Larkin. I want to introduce myself to the citizens of Plymouth, or citizens of Plymouth Township, as well as the board, and let you know a little bit about myself. I'm running for Wayne County Circuit Court Judge. I've been a practicing attorney here in Wayne County for the past 33 years, and I want you to know why I'm running for this job. I'm running for this job because it's the opportunity, it's the greatest opportunity to help people that you have available. One of the blessings I had as an attorney is I've been able to help people over the past 33 years solve all sorts of problems, whether it be keeping their job or helping them out of financial issues or keeping them out of jail. People need help, and that's what I've done for these past 33 years. Just a little bit about myself. I've been happily married for the past 28 years. I met my wife in law school. We have three children, 3 adult children that are sometimes darling, but otherwise sometimes not. We have 2 furry friends that we adopted. And I've been just a little bit more about me. I've been a practicing lifelong Catholic, but I believe in the separation of church and state. I believe that that as a judge, I want you to know how I would take care of my issues. As a judge, there's kind of 2 different kind of judges. There's kind of like we know, like Judge Judy, we all seen her. She's really entertaining, but she's rude. She cuts people off. She treats people very poorly. I will not be that kind of judge. On the other side of that coin is Judge Caprio, for you who have seen him. The guy listens to people, gets into their lives and tries to come up with a solution in the most difficult times that these people are going through. That's the kind of judge I'm going to be. I'm also going to be the kind of judge that protects the public. I don't believe in giving people second chances if they're dangerous, but at the same time, I want to met out individualized justice for everyone. I also want to point out I have a couple great endorsements. One of them is from Judge Drew, who's on the 35th District Court. This judgeship has nothing to do with 35th District Court. It's a completely different race. But I also want to point out that I have an endorsement from Kevin Bennett, who is a township attorney. He's a great gentleman. We've worked on at least 3 cases. He beat me twice. I won once. And he's a real gentleman. I really value his friendship. I ask that you look for Larkin on the ballot. There will be a primary, and there's 3 of us running, so look for Larkin and vote for Larkin. It's on August 6th, and I thank you for listening to me today.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Darla. I'm speaking on behalf of my mother, Johnny Tilka, that lives on Newport Drive in Plymouth.
Darla, we need your last name too, please.
I'm sorry, LaForge.
Sorry.
Okay. This one, Jerry, is for you. I'm speaking for my mother, and she's lived in Plymouth since 1971. She was appalled to get the 2 pieces of mail that came to her house defaming the character of her daughter, Sandy Groth. After all that Sandy did to help you, Jerry, get elected, and to do your job for 3 years while you were ill, not available to do it yourself. Shame on you for trying to destroy a person who has always stood for the community and the citizens that have always worked for the citizens and stood for the community. Sandy's actions have always been motivated by a sense of integrity and following laws. You know that. You worked with her. And anyone that knows her knows that to be true. For some reason, Jerry, God has given you more time to live. I would make sure that I use that time wisely.
Hello, my name is John Van Dyke. I'm not originally from Michigan, and we moved here into Michigan 32 years ago. And when we moved to Michigan, we didn't know Detroit or the suburbs, we didn't know one place from another. And we ended up buying a home in a place that wasn't right, for lack of a better word. And I'm not going to say where, because it just wasn't right. And the congestion and the traffic and so after a few years, we decided to move, and we spent 2 years trying to find the place that we would settle down and raise a family and have, a nice life. And so we looked at Plymouth, we looked at Northville, Livonia, Westland, Farmington Hills, all around here, Novi. And we kept narrowing it down, and we had criteria, the schools, the shopping, the neighborhoods, the crime, just a lot of different things. And we narrowed it down, the churches, the church we wanted to go to. But we kept narrowing it down, bit by bit by bit. And it got down to 2 areas, Northville or Plymouth. And we had a lot of criteria, and there were positive check marks and there were negative check marks. But the one thing that Northville had as a negative check mark was the gambling at the Northville Downs facility. We said, well, no, that's not good for us. That's not good for families. That's not good for us. And that swayed us to Plymouth. And here we are, 25 years later, having that haunt us again. We gave up the congestion up where we lived before, and now we have congestion coming into Plymouth. We do not want to, we want Plymouth to be a family place, a place where you can raise your family, where you can live safe, where you can teach your kids good morals, and you can teach raise your children. I have 2 children, they're now 29 and 35, and I'm gonna have two grandchildren. But this is not the future that this is looking at. So we have to have a solution to this Northville Downs catastrophe, and that must not include a facility in Plymouth Township.
Right.
Okay, we're going to move on to item F1. This is fiscal year 2024 budget amendments and 2023 carry forwards. We do have some new information on our desks that our finance director, Elizabeth Cutie, will explain to us. And then, of course, she'll be available for any other questions that you may have. Liz?
All right. Bob, do you have the presentation?
Yeah, I'm getting there. Oh, was there a PowerPoint?
Well, not for the
Yes.
new version.
Oh, okay. Well,
There's only 2 changes, so get the old one up there. And
Well,
then-
this is her PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
yep, we can still follow that.
Okay.
All right, so the paper that I passed around to everybody, that packet, that is to replace pages 57 through 66. And I just had one number that needed to change, and so that changed a couple of figures on some of the other pages. So my PowerPoint, I'm gonna go through each fund separately and highlight some of the key changes that are included in the amendment. And then the last slide for each fund will talk about fund balance for that fund. So if you could move on to the next slide for me, Bob. Next one. Okay. So tonight's amendment includes $601,000 of additional revenues. I put together this pie chart to kind of show you what the source of those additional revenues are. You can, hold on.
Well, the colors are a little hard to match, so will you just?
Yeah. So 350,000 of the 601 is related to an adjustment to interest income. Last year, I believe during the planning session, the interest estimate was a little conservative.
Yeah, it was
So
conservative.
it looks like it's tracking
Yeah.
quite far ahead this year.
It is.
So
What was the estimate at budget time that we approved?
Yeah, let me see, got that right here.
450.
So this is 450 then plus 350?
Yeah, I think so. I don't have that in front of me.
It was, the original estimate was about 409.
409.
Yeah, so I'm adding an additional 350. I still think that's a little conservative, but it looks like it's a safe number to go with. So that's the biggest section there in the pie chart. We have some small adjustments to the tax collection administrative fee for the summer levy.
That's mostly for penalties, right?
A lot, there is a section in here for penalties and interest and delinquent personal property tax.
That's red 67.7?
That was mostly when people didn't pay by February 15th, and they had to pay the 3% penalty for the paying late before.
That's the red piece of the pie,
Yeah.
67.7?
Mm-hmm. Yep. We have also a couple of local grants that came in, one of which was a United Way grant to allow the police department to purchase a mobile fingerprint scanner in the amount of $4,100. And also, Wayne County is supposed to, we're gonna be constructing a sidewalk on Wilcox. And they are supposed to pay us 50% of the construction costs.
Yeah, we don't even have the IGA ready for that
Okay.
yet. I mean,
Okay.
we've made that offer to the county, but we have not seen anything in writing.
Okay,
Is that from the park millage?
No, that would be a Wayne County Roads project. So, but Liz, we also, didn't we get $50,000 from the state for, the planning department brought in $50,000 in a grant? We should probably double check that.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Well, it's a grant that we got from the state for $50,000 for planning, for the planning department.
Okay.
So, we'll talk about that later.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
So before you leave that slide, the interest is essentially equal to the tax administration fee, kind of like what we discussed last October.
Okay.
We have a few private, we classify them as private donations. We had the Elks donate or purchase some equipment for the fire department on our behalf. And so I'm recognizing a little bit of revenue from them. The state of Michigan paid for some voting equipment that we bought at the end of last year. So that's in here also. There were also some insurance proceeds received for a police speed trailer that was destroyed. And there was also a trade-in of an old building pickup truck to offset the cost of the new truck that was purchased recently. So
That insurance proceeds came from the vehicle insurance of the driver who hit the trailer?
That would have been a subrogation, yeah, pursued by the MMRMA against the
All right,
driver's
so
insurance carrier.
They collected on the
Yeah.
PLPD portion of the, good.
Okay.
So that is that's the revenue side. The expenditures, I'm asking for $517,700 in additional appropriations. 10% of that is carry forwards that did not get done or did not get put into the first quarter budget amendment. So the rest is true budget amendments to the general fund, and I'll go through the major pieces of those. just some minor wage budget adjustments for a couple of the departments, just to, I monitor the payroll throughout the year to see if everything's tracking the way it's supposed to. Sometimes I have to tweak some things, so these just are miscellaneous adjustments, nothing too big. I think you can go to the next slide, Bob, and that'll give us a little more detail. Okay, so this one is a pie chart showing you which departments made up that $517,000 in additional expenses. So 38% was water and sewer, public works, 42% was public safety, and general government, there was additional expenses in there. And then the rest of them were quite small. So this is just kind of showing you what areas, what departments had the increases.
Tell us why the public works is mixed in with the general fund. I always think of water and sewer as being separate funds. So what did we do with public works that splashed into general fund? I was just trying to understand that. That's actually mislabeled. So that piece is related to a capital outlay line item for that Wilcox sidewalk that we don't have the IGA for yet. That's in what's called the Township Improvement Department. So I was amending the budget to put those costs in for construction and engineering services. So if I'm going to take out the revenue that I just spoke about, then I can take that out as well and maybe put it in third quarter. So the 195 will go somewhere else?
I would probably be taking it out of this amendment here.
And go to some other, later we'd handle it at some other time?
Probably third quarter or whenever we receive the IGA.
I would budget 70,000 for the Wilcox sidewalk project for our share. Just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know where you want to put that, but.
Well, I had the revenue budgeted for their contribution and the expense budgeted for the full cost, since they're going to reimburse us. So accounting wise, I think that's a better way to show it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So that's probably going to come out, both the revenue and the expense from this amendment, based on what Kurt is saying tonight. So I would say at this point, public safety is probably the biggest portion of the amendment.
What are the two largest items in public safety?
We had 3 retirement payouts, 2 in the police and 1 in the fire department, that totaled approximately $98,000 for very veteran employees who retired.
By the way, I saw we paid out life insurance. Which one of our employees passed away? Does anybody know?
I don't recall that.
It's on here.
Chris Mack.
Chris Mack, fireman.
Okay.
Let's see. The general government piece there, I had a discussion with Jeremy with Spalding to Decker about some of the things that he's working on, and there are just some miscellaneous tasks that he's working on that have kind of bumped that line item up, and so I put a little bit of extra money in there to account for that, some of which are related to the sprayscape, the Wilcox Road, engineering costs, things like that. So that's an adjustment there in the general government category. Those are really the big things.
What is the capital outlay, the 273,000 for? It's right at the bottom.
Yes.
That might include the 195.
It does.
Okay.
It definitely does. I was trying to think what the other items are. Glasses on. There were 2 carry forwards for fire department items that totaled about $51,000 that went into that capital outlay category. Those are for life pack monitors and the service agreement for those, about $7,100. So together, the service agreement and the life pack monitor purchase totaled about $51,000.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, so we're on the next slide here now, looks like.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to point out about this is that while we have a fund balance of over $9 million, more than half of that is not spendable. So it's obligated to various liabilities. So the cash portion that is spendable is about 4.4. Yeah.
And when we say spendable, Bob, we also mean that we as a board have decided to encumber quite a bit of money for police, fire, elections operations as well. So we can unencumber that too if we want.
We could unencumber it, yeah.
There's also a chunk in there for building maintenance, or is that in a different fund?
The building maintenance funds are kept at about $50,000 a year. There's one for this building, one for police, one for fire, one for DPW, and those are designed to cover anything that might break during the year where we need access to funds, like HVAC or a leaky roof, for example, like we had back here earlier this year. So things of that nature. Okay, Liz, what's up next?
Okay. Also in capital outlay, a very small piece of it, the resolution that was passed at the May 28th meeting to transfer the an old police vehicle to the clerk/election department, that is recorded in here too.
Are we going forward or
The general
backward?
fund paid for that vehicle at fair market value, which is what the forfeiture fund laws say that we have to do, because it was originally purchased with forfeiture funds.
Okay.
So, okay, moving on to Brownfield.
On each one.
All right, just very, very short here. We have a couple of, we have a grant reimbursement that I wanted to recognize the revenue for, and that is related to the courthouse grill project. And we have, there are 2 funding sources for that project. One is a grant and one is a loan. We have not begun to touch the loan yet. I believe we're going to just spend the grant funds first. As you know, there's not a lot going on right now with the courthouse grill. But these grant reimbursements that we received related to activities that were done at the near the end of last year. So it just takes several weeks to get the money in.
And I just want to point out that the grants and loans that you're referring to were obtained by the developer, and this is part of a grant program that's provided by the state of Michigan to clean up contaminated sites. We are a pass-through. So this money will be coming in one door of the treasurer's office and going out the other door.
The $16,000 for Michigan
MITC.
International Technology Center legal expenses. What what law firm got those, or?
That goes to Steve Mann at Miller Canfield. He's the attorney for the MITC.
Okay. And that's about it.
Okay,
for
what's
brownfield.
next?
We have, so there's a slide going through the fund balance, the new estimated fund balance or net position as it is technically called. So you can move on to the next slide. Downtown Development Authority. We had a little bit of activity in here over the past several months. The electric vehicle chargers are operational. They've been up for 5 months, 6 months now. We did not previously have a budget in there for that, but based on the history I'm seeing, I estimated conservatively that we may receive 21,000 or so of revenue from people who use the chargers.
Will we exceed the cost of the electricity that we're buying?
Yeah, but
I
not by a
believe so.
lot. The goal is with the pricing on those EV chargers to recoup the cost of the electricity plus the annual maintenance on the chargers. And, you know, we're not trying to make a profit. We're just trying to recover all the cost of having them in place.
What about the capital replacement? We're not recovering anything in case they wear out eventually?
Well, the goal is to contribute a little bit towards the amortization of that capital investment over time, break even on these things. We don't want to be in the, we've got, you know, we don't want to be in the business of running EV chargers for a profit, but we don't want to subsidize them either.
I think the goal, Bob, is to set aside the additional revenue for just for that purpose, you know, for the purpose of repairs that might need to be made down the road.
Right.
Actually, the chargers have really exceeded our expectations. They're being used
Yeah.
a lot more than we thought.
I'm surprised. We're covering our bills.
My hypothesis is one reason they're being so overused is that we may be priced a little too low, below the market. We may want to look at that for the future.
Yeah,
People aren't
perhaps.
stupid. They go where the market is best value for the money.
Okay, Liz, what's up next?
So the other piece of revenue that I'm recognizing is the rebate that we received from DTE for the chargers themselves, and that was $50,000.
And that covered all of our out-of-pocket for that deal?
No, the DDA contributed about $90,000.
The DDA?
Yes, sir.
And we just had, I tweaked the expense budget for some additional tree work that was done in the DDA zone, and also to adjust the electricity budget for the DTE bills that come in. So between Bob and myself, we'll be keeping an eye on that to see how it all shakes out. So you want to go to the next slide. Here's just a slide on fund balance and where we may end up. So it's in pretty decent shape. So on to the forfeiture fund. Okay. We received 102, almost 103,000 in forfeiture monies so far through March 31st of this year.
So the sale of the police vehicle to the clerk's office is not recognized here?
It goes to the state.
It's a different forfeiture fund. It came out of the state forfeiture fund.
So it goes to the state forfeiture fund, all right.
Yes.
We'll see that later,
Yes.
maybe. All right.
This was 2 police vehicles that were sold at auction, and that was the net proceeds of those. And the only expense adjustment I have is another carry forward from 2023, an upfitting cost for one of our new police vehicles, approximately $30,000. I don't think it's gonna be I don't think it will be $30,000, but that's the carry forward amount. So there's the fund balance that's projected. And here we are at the state forfeiture fund. So here's the revenue that we're recognizing from the transfer of the old police, is it an expedition? I think it was an expedition.
Explorer, I think.
Yeah, one of those two. So $7,800, and you see a corresponding expense in the general fund for that, to record that as an asset. And then just a minor adjustment for a radio activation fee for some radios that were purchased in fiscal year 2023. And that's it. Move on to the next slide, please. Okay, opioid settlement fund. We, ooh, that's a little hard to read. I'm recognizing revenue of $24,100 for this year. I don't know if we really know when they come, when the funds come in. They give us a yearly estimate. Yeah. But I do have a worksheet that takes us out through the year 2038, and in total, we are expected to receive $214,000 in opioid settlement funds. And then
Tell me about the trailer. What is the trailer all about? I wasn't aware of it. It'd be kind of good advertising for the community. We're doing something with the opioid settlement.
Yeah, Chuck, we have purchased a trailer to outfit all of the training equipment and things that we will use for opioid presentations, as well as different events that we have related to opioid prevention, particularly with the kids in school.
Good.
Okay. So that's the fund balance picture for the opioid fund.
We purchase Noxalone out of that fund, or we do it from the budget?
No, we're provided that. We get that through the county as well. Narcan.
Okay. Okay, on to the ARPA fund. We have basically spent all the funds. There's just a little teeny bit left in there. Some interest revenue came in that I needed to increase the interest line item for. So I tweaked that budget line item for $4,000. And the ambulance that we purchased that was put in service, I believe in February, we just paid that invoice in early 2024. So that is part of the revenue purchase. So the way the ARPA funds work is the funds are held in a deferred or an unearned account until you spend them. So as we spend them, we move them over from that little holding bucket and actually recognize the revenue. So that's why the $282,000 revenue adjustment is here. Not much left in that fund. It's mainly due to interest earnings. We will reallocate the funds to any other projects that are in the ARPA fund that may have gone a little over budget. You know, we'll kind of balance it out. And the capital project fund, very, very brief. We had two sort of emergency repairs here. We had mold remediation costs related to fire station number 3 and the emergency roof repair over the police department, and that was $32,500. And I believe we have to pass a resolution to replenish those funds as we use them, but we will put that in next year's budget and handle that then. And as you can see, the Township Improvement Fund has a decent fund balance right now, so.
That's for maintenance, correct?
Yeah.
Unexpected.
Yeah, unexpected, yep. Transportation fund.
Just had to make a little tweak to the wage budget, you know, just making sure that the budget is tracking appropriately with the wages. Since we put the new senior transportation vans into service, that's going to mean increased depreciation expenses. So I had to adjust the budget a little bit upwards for that. So really, total extra appropriations were $5,000. So, let's see. And then the water and sewer fund is the last one. All right, so I believe we are at full staffing levels in the public works area. Had to tweak that budget for a new hire and related health insurance expenses. So that was $37,000. And if you could back up to the previous slide real quick for me. Yeah. The water main replacement that was approved at the May 28th meeting, if you recall. That resolution allowed me to amend the budget upwards by $400,000 for that work. It doesn't mean that that is going to stay at that level. I just want to make sure we have enough in there to cover that right now for when the work begins. So there's your fund balance / net position figures. We'll have a number of adjustments throughout the year in the water and sewer fund. I mean, new rates are going to go into effect, all kinds of things. So it'll be revisited at a later date. That's pretty much all I had. Just wanted you to know that between my deputy finance director and myself, we are constantly monitoring the budget line items. And as the year draws to a close, it's easier to kind of predict where we're going to end up. And at that time, I should be able to reduce some of those line items for things that we have not spent or, you know, budgeted aggressively for. So I'm hopeful about the way everything is going to end up this year, particularly in the general fund.
Okay.
So.
Any other questions for Liz at this point? All right, then I'm going to look for a motion on this.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk.
I move that the Plymouth Township Board of Trustees hereby adopt Resolution 2024-07-09-38, authorizing various fiscal year 2024 budget amendments and fiscal year 2023 carry forwards as outlined in the attachment.
Okay, motion's made by Clerk Vorba. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Monahan. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Clerk Vorba, yes. Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yeah.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Next item is item F2. This is the proposed collective bargaining agreement with Plymouth Township Professional Firefighters Association. I'm requesting that the board approve the collective bargaining agreement with Plymouth Township Local 1496 for a term beginning April 1st, 2024 and ending March 31st, 2028. The union has currently been operating without a contract for about 2.5 months now. This agreement, the tentative agreement, has been ratified by the union, and the tentative agreement list is attached, containing all changes to the contract. We've also had a closed session on this item a few weeks ago, and I also provided you a attorney-client privilege memo providing additional information. So just to recap, this is a 4-year contract, wages at 4.44 and 4, decreasing years of top pay from 6 years to 3 years in order to be more competitive. We have this thing called the 604 bonus, which is a convoluted bonus that we have to provide firefighters under federal law, under federal wage and hour laws, because they work different hours and longer hours than regular employees. So this accommodates that change. That's actually something that we were looking for. It's much easier for us to administer. As we were going through the contract, we also found this thing called the phantom hour. It's an extra hour of pay, which no one knows why it was in the contract, but it's some kind of a legacy issue. So we eliminated that as well and streamlined the 604 bonus to be 3 overtime hours per week per federal regulations. The annual food allowance has been increased from 900 to 1,200 to recognize the continuing impact of inflation. Holiday pay has been increased by 4 hours. We're changing the titles of lieutenant to captain. That's with no change in pay or benefits. The union wanted an indemnification clause, which didn't bother us because they're covered anyway under our insurance plan. And then I want to talk now about the transport and staffing issue. So under this contract, there is a procedure in place to transition over from a private operator doing ambulance work to the township. So, okay. So in order for this to happen, a series of events have to occur. First of all, there has to be full staffing of at least 33 firefighter, paramedics, and suppression. How many firefighters do we have now, Chief?
We currently have 24.
24. So we would have to hire 9 firefighters, which is a very tall order. Men and women do not want to join the profession nowadays, and it is a very competitive market. We are competing against places like Canton, Northville, Livonia, Dearborn, places that offer defined benefit plans, defined pension plans, which we do not offer, and we're not in favor of that here either. But it is a very competitive market, and I think, I would say the HVA guys probably find it very competitive as well to hire and retain people. But that's just the way of the world right now. So it's a very tall order to try to reach that level. We would also have to establish a sufficient staffing of dispatchers. Now, why is that necessary? Because if we provide this service on our own, we have to have our dispatchers be emergency medical dispatch qualified. They have to be able to talk to you over the phone and make sure that you are providing a minimal amount of effort to medically stabilize and possibly even treat the person while help is on the way. That again is a very tall order. The dispatchers would have to be trained in this area and they have to be certified. So again, that takes time, and that's it's a very high bar that we have to reach. That goes again to item number 3, Bob, if you want to go to the next page. The dispatchers would have to meet EMD certification requirements. So again, very high level. And then the board would have to terminate the HVA contract. So none of these things can happen. That would happen once those other requirements are met. And again, it's a very high standard to reach. And then when these conditions are met, they have to be met also for a period of 30 days. So you just cannot hit one day of all of these things aligning perfectly and then being on our way. It doesn't work that way. So there would have to be a minimum of 30 days, maximum of 30 days, where this new arrangement would be in place. So again, it's a framework that we've reached with the union. These kinds of changes are mandatory subjects of bargaining because they involve changes to working hours, working conditions, bonuses, time off, etc. So there's a lot to do there. And then when those conditions are met, there's another 4 requirements of both the township and the firefighters. This also provides for us in the event that we become dissatisfied with the service that we're getting, or if the service is diminished in any way, or of course this is a contract, it's a two-way street. They may want to make a business decision to go somewhere else as well.
I'm sorry.
Well, in this case, it's HVA, but there are other private providers out there too. Okay, next thing is fire marshal. We just changing the name of our fire inspector to a fire marshal, and then we have changes to vacation and personal time that are really to the benefit of both the union and the administration. It's kind of complicated, but basically it allows us to for a firefighter to take time off to attend a conference or a training session without being penalized. we're not, it's not an additional, there's nothing, nothing new right there. So, again, that's the contract, and I'll entertain any questions that the board may have.
I have some comments I have in my notes. First, I want to say thank you to both sides, management and the union, for the diligent work that you did on this contract. There's a number of things in the tentative agreement that are economic and non-economic that I think it's a very generous contract, and I think it's well earned. What I'm about to say does not have any, it's not a commentary on the fire department, because I think we get great service, and I feel really comfortable knowing that I don't sit at home worrying whether somebody's going to show up if I make a call to 911, and that goes for both police and fire. And that's a wonderful thing, because that's not true everywhere. The letter of understanding, it's a non-starter for me, and I'd like to outline some of the reasons why. Because first, I think this represents a major decision. It's a strategic decision that will impact an entire generation. Once you go in that direction, you can't go back. Our goal should be to provide the best possible patient care that we can deliver at the best operational and cost efficiency, because it's all about patient care. And that's number one. And we have to do that in a way that we do that with operational and financial efficiency. So we haven't really had any discussions with the board, and I'm not saying that at some point in the future you would never come to the conclusion that eliminating private ambulance service would be the best way to deliver patient care at the most operational level. It's possible. We just have not really studied it, not since 2010, I think. We haven't asked the public for input, and I think we should.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And while it doesn't immediately take effect, this sets the stage, especially with the fire station being designed. Second from us, so I want to keep focusing on, this is about best patient care that we can afford. But from a services standpoint, HVA maintains a permanence in the community at no cost to us. The revenue is entirely from the billing of transports to medical facilities. Again, is that the best operational model? I don't know. It has served us well for decades, and I don't see the reason that we should change. It's not uncommon to see two rigs. I've seen medical emergencies before where you see two rigs arrive. You see a rig from to Plymouth Township, and you see HVA arrive. And people say, why are two ambulances arriving? And I say, that's a great thing. I would, if we had a life-threatening emergency in my own home, and I had the luxury of living in a community where two rigs showed up, that's a wonderful thing in my view. So if there's problems with the service levels from HVA or whoever the private ambulance service would be, we need to fix that, the service levels, not throw the baby out with the bathwater, if that's the right expression. A few years back, we did do an RFP and we selected HVA, but there were other bidders, and there's nothing to say that this hybrid solution can't continue. And again, I know I'm repeating myself, but what we ought to be doing is looking at what is the right model to provide the best possible patient care at the best operational and cost efficiency. And maybe it's a hybrid model, maybe it's not. The third thing is it is a major financial decision. It shouldn't be only about that, because if we went to the community and asked for additional funds to support this because it was the right operational model, we would probably get it. But HVA's revenue, and Paul Hood is here somewhere, he can confirm. I was estimating that it's about 700,000 a year, and with an escalation of 6% over the next 20 years, that's about $23 million in revenue, which doesn't pay for the cost of the additional firefighters. So if we were to do this, if this made sense from an operational standpoint, and we were to do this, we'd have to understand where we're going to go for the additional funding to make up the gap, because it would cost more. So in summary, I don't think that the board needs to have a study session on this, and we should maybe postpone this decision until we can do that. I know there's a pending contract on the table that needs ratification, but maybe we should postpone it, and if we don't want to go to the point of doing a vote. So only for this reason, not for any other reason in that tentative agreement. I'm great with the wages. I'm fine with all the economic benefits, but only for this reason, I'm a no vote.
Okay.
Okay, if I could speak next, piggybacking on what you're talking about, Trustee Dorshowitz, I would like to personally hear, we've heard from the citizens on this topic. We've mainly just heard about the financial component. I suspect that there's more factors involved. If we could possibly hear from firefighters or the fire chief as to what are the other factors that would benefit Plymouth Township by eliminating the HVA contract. All sides need to be discussed here. Okay, that's a very prudent way of operating here.
Agreed, that's why we need a work session.
That? There are other factors involved, Chief?
Correct, there's several other factors involved. And part of that is retention. Part of the other thing is when I hired in 2001, brought our staffing up to 27. We were on a course probably to be at 36 eventually. That's what this is going to take us up to. We are at 24 today. We are running more calls today than we were with the city and the township combined. And that number keeps escalating every year.
So how does HVA impact the firefighters? Is it a asset to the firefighter culture? Does it degrade it? What can we speak to about that? Something that we can get on board outside of the financial.
Well, it's we're probably the only. We have 4 ambulances. We have 3 ambulances staffed every day. Let's get that out there right now. We currently own 3 ambulances. I don't know where they're saying we need to buy more ambulances. We need to replace some we have. We're not going to be buying and adding ambulances. It would be replacing is all it would be. There's a transfer of care. We're the only community, an ALS community, Advanced Life Support community. We are the same licensure as Huron Valley Ambulance. Some people spoke about different units that they offer. Those units aren't, when we go out the door, we're going out with the same units. They're sending us ALS units, and we're sending an ALS unit. The mobile intensive care unit, that is something totally different. That's a hospital-to-hospital type unit. That's what that's for. We're going out the door with the same thing. We're going out with an ALS ambulance, and a lot of times, time is of the essence. Someone spoke that they're upset that they have to go to St. Mary. Sometimes we don't have a choice. In our protocols, we work under medical protocols, and they say you have to go to the closest hospital. We are operating under the license of the doctor at the hospital, and it's no different for us or HVA. There's a transfer of care issue that gets kind of lost in the mix, and then folks that have been patients that we've treated have said, well, I told all the stuff to the firefighters, and then HVA comes in, and they need to gain the information themselves to provide the best care they can. So there's a step there that's delaying the process. There's Canton Township's an ALS transporting department, Northville Township's an ALS transporting department. These are all departments without a secondary private ambulance. Livonia, Westland. There's no other model like this in Wayne County that I know of where there's an ALS transporting department has a private provider additionally.
Okay, I have another question.
Sure, and Jen, I just want to point out again that this is a framework. And as I pointed out, there are several very steep steps that need to be achieved, such as hiring additional firefighters, such as having the dispatchers be EMD certified. We approached this at the bargaining table with our eyes open. We brought the police chief in. We brought in the dispatching coordinator to explain the pros and cons of this. And so what we have here, because this is a collective bargaining agreement, we have to negotiate these things with the union. The union is aware that this transition is not going to be easy, and that it's going to take time, and that that we're all up against economic and social factors impacting these decisions, because it is very difficult for us right now to hire and retain qualified firefighters, and that's just not our. I think Canton is down 13. I think a lot of our communities are down much more than we are, and frankly, I think some of their plans are better than ours. So our guys are dedicated to the cause, and they want to do more. They want to transport more. They know that they're doing more now than they ever have in history. And if we're going to make that transition, it's going to take time. It's not going to be easy, and it depends on a lot of factors beyond our control. But we have a framework in place, because again, it's something that we have to negotiate with the union.
So the other question I had, and we spoke briefly over email about it. So my husband is a sergeant for the Royal Oak Police Department. He just recently took a course in leadership and was made aware that, and perhaps both chiefs can speak on this, because we're talking about safety being a top priority, okay? How does HVA respond in the case of a mass shooting? We have a park here with 6,000 students. I live 1.5 blocks from there. I pulled my son from school when helicopters were over my house because the school was shut down. Cars were in my neighborhood asking to use bathrooms and get some snacks while they waited in horror for their children. I'm sure some of you also experience that as well. I would like to know, if there was a mass shooting and there were critically injured students there, how does HVA respond to that versus our firefighters?
In such a situation, our firefighters would probably be operating in the warm zone. We do have bulletproof vests and some ballistic armor in conjunction with the police department, who would be providing protection with us. The warm zone is not where the bad guy actively is. It kind of gives you a little bit of a cushion so we can operate safely. And then the HVA would probably be in the cold zone, which is another layer out, and the patients would have to be brought to them.
It's a factor to consider.
May I say something? Are you done?
Well,
Yeah.
HVA most
Okay.
likely wouldn't, that's Canton Township where the PSEP is. So they don't operate in that township.
Okay.
They'd have to be called on mutual aid or something.
Correct, but and hopefully that never happens. It's the worst thing we could ever imagine, but everybody's going to be on deck for that situation. We also have a number of schools in our community here. We have three middle schools. One's just across the line into the city, but and several elementary schools as well.
If I could add from the police side.
To come in that situation.
I think Trustee Buckley Trustee Monahan had a question.
I did, thank you.
I want to call on her.
Actually, I have some comments to make. First of all, Chief, your department is providing the citizens of Plymouth Township with remarkable services. I looked at this contract. I see the tentative agreement. I am not opposed to it as in general, except I do have an issue with the HVA contract being now moved into the responsibility of Plymouth Township. And the reason why I say that is because we have a system that we don't have to pay for that is operating. I'm not aware of them not operating well, so why change it? Why put that extra burden on the firefighters to have to then do what HVA would have done? Secondly, in this economic time and climate that we have, and I understand and I appreciate Supervisor Heisey's comments, but at the end of the day, I know that there are several layers that would have to get through in order to eradicate or terminate the contract with HVA. But there's a couple things that's a problem with that. First of all, their contract ends in December 31st. Okay, we don't want to be in a lurch trying to decide, is your department going to make these goals that have to be set in order to get rid of HVA? I think that is a tremendous burden on your department. And I think it supplants an ideal that at the end of the day, what we should be focusing on is what's best for our Plymouth Township residents, and not having to worry about burdening our fire department with this when we already have a solution that works and fits. So I'm not opposed to the contract per se. I am opposed to number 7, and that's the transport and staffing. And therefore, I couldn't vote for the agreement. But I wanted you to know that, what I appreciate, and maybe we can go into another session and delete that particular requirement so that it would be a win-win situation. We have what we need for the firefighters to do their job and get their staffing up to what they need, and then everybody has the HVA contract that provides the services that we also need. By the way, if it is true that we're not able to pick which hospital it is, then okay, so be it. But if it's not true, then I know myself, I'm not trying to cast aspersions on local hospitals here, but if I want to go to U of M, or I want to go to St. Joe's because I believe in their care, then that's where I want to go.
And we will take you there. If your medical protocols say we can take you there, we will take you there now.
What happens
Currently,
if I want to
currently we
sign
are
off?
transporting 33% of the calls.
Hold on.
We are transporting a third of the calls.
So you're
currently.
already doing a third of the cost.
Correct.
A third of the work.
Correct.
What you're saying, Chief, is that if the protocol says, take me to the closest place, and I say, no, you're going to do it anyway, do I have the option to sign
Well,
off?
that's going to get complicated, but what we're going to do is we're going to contact medical control, the doctor we work under. We're going to get them on the radio, and we're going to say this individual is having this life-threatening situation right now. We're not sure they're going to make it to St. Joe's, even though they are adamant about going to St. Joe's or U of M, and we will get their approval whether to take you. At that point, if something bad, God forbid, happens, it's going to hopefully take the liability off us, probably not likely, but that's what happens. We constantly work under medical control. We have a lot of preset protocols we operate under, but in that situation, we would have to ask permission if we deemed that, no, you should be going to the closest facility, because we're working in your best interest. We're trying to save your life. This is an emergency service.
So you won't let me sign off and say, I take full responsibility?
We will
Take
after
me
talking to
Ann
the
Arbor.
doctor.
No, what if the doctor says no?
Then we're going to take you either there or you sign off completely.
Ask him.
Okay, so I could sign off and overrule the physician?
Yeah.
Really? Okay, that's good to know.
Well, you
because
could sign
in
up,
the
you could
past-
sign up, yeah.
In the past, we were told we couldn't do that. So, good. All right.
I mean, it's a terrible idea, but you can.
What does HVA do?
They basically run under the same rules we do. They would do the same thing.
Okay.
No,
Okay,
in the
it's
incident. At the incident is what you
getting a lot
refer
of
to.
control.
While
This
I'm
is why-
dying of a heart attack, I can
Okay,
say,
okay.
hell no, I'm not going
I have an
there.
idea.
I'm willing to sign off, send me somewhere else.
Okay.
Well,
all
I don't-
right,
it appears
okay,
that way.
Okay, Mr.
So we
Schultz,
have the
Mr.
HVA
Schultz.
representative here. He could answer that question.
All right, why don't we do this? We have John Clark here. He's our labor counsel. I'd like you to come forward.
What? You're gonna talk about medical stuff, John?
No, Chuck,
Chuck, you're on mute.
please be respectful. Mr. Clark?
Yes.
From what I'm hearing here, are we being exposed to a possible unfair labor practice if we were to approve the contract tonight minus the letter of understanding?
Yes, good evening, everybody. Yes, this is a package deal.
Yeah.
This is a package deal. This was negotiated together. And so if the board decides to not vote for the contract or vote for the contract and not the letter of agreement, then we don't have an agreement. At that point, either the union could file an unfair labor practice charge, or they could file something with court, or we could go back to the bargaining table.
Could we postpone it and avoid an unfair labor practice charge?
I mean, you can postpone anything. It's a motion on the
there's
table.
there's no issue.
I mean, it's a resolution on the table.
That's the question I asked.
Yes.
It's not an unfair labor practice.
Well, if you postpone it for eternity, it would be.
No.
Yeah, certainly, yeah. If there's certain time limits in place. I mean, this contract was negotiated through a TA, I think 2 months ago. Unions ratified it for some time now, so.
Wages are retroactive.
That's correct.
All right, so they're not losing wages.
That's correct. That's correct.
Well, they are operating without a contract for the last couple of months.
Yeah, they're basically operating under the.
What I'm hearing here is that I don't think we want to penalize them, but if there was a way that we could carve out the letter of understanding, and send it back to the table. But postponement may be, a less egregious option.
Yeah, if that's the board's desire, we would go back to the bargaining table, have the discussions with the union. If they're willing to abort the letter of agreement, then they may have other assets they want in addition to what they've already asked for, because in their minds that this was part of their concession to do this. So again, I have no idea what their tenor or tone would be at the table. That's to be determined.
Would they have to vote on it again?
Yes, they would.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would have to go through a whole ratification process, both terms of bargaining, a new tentative agreement, they would have to ratify it, and then it would come back to the board again for another consideration.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have a couple of comments. I want these people to get a pay increase, but a change that is in our policy that is this monumental, the biggest change in the fire department probably in the last 35 to 40 years, has been done in a labor contract. It really should be done as part of a policy discussion with some data. I was presented with zero data, no pro forma finances or operational data. We need to be really good about this, and I hope that we don't have text messages like I got last week saying, Kermie doesn't want to give them a raise. That's not the case. They're doing a great job.
I got text messages tonight saying I'm going to raise your taxes, so.
They're doing a great job, but this monumental sea change needs to be really contemplated with some work sessions and input from the firemen, the fire chief. Those need to be in writing, and maybe an outside consultant like ICMA. So I'm proposing that we postpone this. And do we have to say a date, or can we postpone for 90 days? And then that's the assignment for the fire chief, our finance person, and maybe the supervisor and the firemen to come together with something on paper in writing. I have seen zero writing. So what do you think?
Yeah, I would not. 90 days is a fairly extensive period of time to not have discussions with the union in terms. Again, we have an obligation to bargain in good faith. And a pause for 90 days, while I understand it's an important decision, I'm not sure that that's something that they would wait for. And if they believe that we're at an impasse, they have a right to go to what's called compulsory arbitration, where this body loses complete control of the outcome, and it's thrown to an arbitrator who basically gets to write the contract.
So that's Act 312?
Act 312.
All right.
John,
Yes.
is there a legal difference between postponing it and going back to the bargaining table to see if you could modify the TA and voting no to
The board
deny
could
it?
simply table this, which would put it at the next meeting, and then see where it goes, and whether that happens at that point in time or not.
But is there any legal difference between doing that and if we voted it down today?
No, it's basically, it would basically be the
Same
same thing.
outcome.
Yeah.
I think voting it down would be.
It would send a message.
That
voting
would be
down?
that would be a very negative
Okay,
impact.
I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, certainly, if the board is moving that direction, I would recommend approval, but if that's not the way the board's gonna go, certainly table the document.
I'm asking, what's the most expeditious way to get back to that particular issue? Because that seems to be the only objection is. issue
Section 7, right?
Section 7.
Yeah, I would then table this to the next meeting or to a future meeting. I think 90 days is a fairly extensive period of time.
Too early.
How about, we could extend to a future meeting. How about a
Yes,
future
you
meeting?
could extend it to a future
I mean,
meeting.
I would say, I mean, I know the union's gonna be calling tomorrow, so.
Yes.
I mean, I don't think that precludes us legally from sitting down with the union in the interim.
No, not at all. No, and in fact, the law mandates that we do,
Yeah, okay.
yes.
So your advice would be that we should table it if we have this issue with paragraph 7?
Yes.
I don't
Table
think
it
the
to a
word is
future
table, it's
meeting.
postpone.
Isn't postpone the right
Okay.
word?
Table postpone to a future meeting.
Table leaves it to the end of this meeting. Postpone goes to a
Postpone
future.
is future.
Okay,
But don't set a date.
okay.
Postpone to a future meeting, allow us to connect with the union, continue our bargaining, and see where that lies, and then come back with the board with either a revised, updated TA, or at least an update. At that point, the board then could at that point give it full consideration.
Great,
Can
thank
any
you.
of these bargaining sessions include a representative, a trustee of any kind?
They typically have not. It's typically the supervisor, myself, and the police chief, the fire chief.
Okay.
What about firefighters? Do they come in?
Well,
Do
they're
they have
at
a
the table,
representative?
but they're on the other side of the table.
There's at least 4 of them at the table.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're for this, and the chief is for this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed your question.
Our firefighters are for this, and our fire chief, this is already a done deal for them in their eyes. They're looking for our vote of a yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Or ratified it, right?
Yeah.
Tentative.
Okay, may I please, I'm the last and only one up front to allowed to speak on this. I'm celebrating my 2-year anniversary of being T-boned on 5 Mile and upside down for 12 minutes until Richie Inman pulled me out of my car. I never lost consciousness. And then I was in an ambulance and taken to St. Mary's, and Captain Harrell showed up, and Captain Harrell said to HVA, "We don't need you. Go home." He told HVA that. I was fine. My point is this, I got a background in personnel and in contract law. If it's not necessary, it's necessary not to do it. There's clear consensus here tonight, John, Attorney John Clark. We want to support the wages. We want to support all aspects of this proposal. But no thank you to terminating HVA. And if it's not necessary, then it's necessary not to do it. Putting a condition precedent in here, according to law, that if we hire 9 fully certified paramedics, firefighters, then we will do this. You know, Lord, for tomorrow and its needs, I do not pray. Let's take care of today. So, I mean, this is futuristic, and we want to genuinely support, and now we want to genuinely support from A to Z, our firefighters and our gratitude. And maybe we can encourage more firefighters to come to Plymouth Township with a nicer facility out in Lake Point. I would hope that the firefighters would understand that we can't predict the future. If we hire 9 more, then we will do this. No. That's not the way it works. That's not the way it works. I'm sorry. So you define the mechanism, but we've clearly stated what we want to do.
So you want a motion?
Is there any other questions? Then yeah, make a motion.
I moved to postpone the tentative Plymouth Township firefighters agreement dated, do I need to put a date? Beginning April 1, 2024 and ending March 31, 2028.
Second.
Okay, so a motion's been made to postpone by Kermy, seconded by Monahan. So a yes vote is a vote to postpone. Okay, Mr. Clerk?
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Motion carries.
Okay. So, gentlemen, I know we have some, call me.
I have a
We'll keep
question
talking.
that,
Yeah.
you don't have to answer it tonight, but the proposed 9 incremental hires, are those going to be all starting on one day, or you'll hire one and then they'll be around 6 months and then you'll hire another one? And wow.
Well, it's,
That's why you need to get in writing what your plan is.
can't
That needs to be
hire-
down, because you could have 6 people on board and they won't have much to do until you get 3 more, something like that. So we need to see the hiring plan as part of, on paper, please.
okay. All right, next up again is public comment. Get the shot clock ready.
Thank you, esteemed board, for making the decision that data matters and that you need to take the time to research. Again, my name is Janai Stepp, and I've lived in this community for 25 years. Since 2018, Kurt Heisey has said that the residents of Plymouth Township do not pay enough taxes. As he referenced our neighboring communities, Northville, City of Plymouth, and Canton Township, he noted that our taxes have historically been lower than them and should be raised up to those levels of those around us. In his vein, promises made, promises kept, that's exactly what he's done. He's already raised our taxes in this time frame of 40%, and that's just to start. While we are fighting inflation to put food on our tables, he is promoting inflation by continuing to increase our taxes with no end in sight. He's directed the vote for this treasurer to implement a 1% administration fee to pay your taxes. At his discretion, again, this treasurer agreed to that tax increase.
Yeah, this is becoming.
When
like a
Chuck
political
Kermy made the
debate.
motion
Not
to
true.
decrease taxes and eliminate this fee, this appointed treasurer used his discretion to keep it. He did not vote with Chuck Kermy to eliminate the tax. It still appears as a line item on your property tax bill. The current treasurer supports a tax to pay your taxes. Our tax money is still being wasted, though, through poor planning and a lack of due diligence on projects that are ill-conceived and reckless. We talked about that tonight, but we've identified that data is important. Let's use the example of the Lake Point Fire Station. After delaying 6 years and ignoring the Lake Point community's residents' concerns, now the board is, during an election year, blindly embarking on this project with no data and no course of action because they've already hired a firm. It's an architectural firm that they've agreed to pay 6.9% over the cost of the project. But what is the budget? We have an estimate. They're not being paid based on the quality or the timeliness or the satisfaction of the completion. That's just bad business. Lawyers who make these decisions belong in the courtroom, not in the boardroom. We need to stop the tax and spend cycle. We cannot afford this. I just saw the movie Independence Day, since we just celebrated the 4th of July. Bill Pullman was a role of the president. In the movie, aliens are attacking the earth and trying to destroy all life on earth. Well, it's not quite the same thing, but the career politicians and the big money outsiders are attacking the way of life here in Plymouth Township. In order for our survival, I quote, "We are fighting for the right to live and to exist in Plymouth Township. We will not go quietly into the night, and we will not go without a fight." Residents of Plymouth Township, it's time to stand up and fight for your community. Stop the madness, stop the inflation, and stop this board. Thank you.
Since I was mentioned, I want to say something, because what she said was patently false. I do not have the discretion to set the administration fee. That is absolutely false. That's set by board resolution. Go look it up. It's false.
Thank
It
you
is
for
not
bringing,
my discretion.
Okay, guys.
Thank you for bringing
All
that
right,
up. Bob, you are
ma'am,
correct
you're
that
way
it
over
is
your
an
time.
MC.
You're
Oh,
over your
he made
time.
a
You
comment
said that in the
that I was
paper, and
false.
you're
Can I
wrong.
please
You don't
respond
know
to
how
his
it
question?
works.
This is not a political debate.
MCL.
There's been time for that. The next person?
Act two.
The next person could come up,
Bob, for
please.
clarification, if we move it down to 0.9 or 0.95, who makes that decision? The board doesn't usually, right?
We do it as part of the budget every year.
Part of the budget.
Okay, so it's
Chuck.
part of the, that's when it's done, it's
Yeah.
part of the budget, that's what I'm trying to
And it's
understand.
based on the actual cost of the,
So we're at 0.95,
Something
coming
like
coming up.
9.5 or 9.6, yeah.
it's adjusted, because if we don't, then it's a violation of
Because it
both
can only be
decisions.
used
Do you know what the
for
both decision is?
treasurer and
No, you don't.
assessor.
And
Okay.
it is based on the
all right.
MCL
We're losing
211.44, where the board decides to
Okay.
implement it. I'm still responding to his
I'm-
question.
yeah, but
But it
this
is
is-
his
this is not- this is not the
discretion
League of Women
to go
Voters
along
debate
with
here.
the vote
I know
of
what
the
you're trying
board.
to do.
So please don't say that I'm incorrect,
Board
because it was your
resolution.
discretion to vote
Okay,
with the
okay.
board
Say that.
to
All right, you
implement
guys.
the vote.
Okay. All right,
To implement
next.
the fee.
3 minutes, please.
My name is Alex Wassel. I live in Heather Hills. I've been a resident of this beautiful community since 1999. I want to thank the board's vote on the HVA portion of the contract, to delay it and to get it right. Now, I'm a retired UAW member for the last 8 years, but before that, I was a dues-paying member for 44 years. And I was a delegate to the bargaining convention. I was also a trustee for a short time at my local. The important thing that you must know and consider is that union contracts have gone without, a union contract, it's a common practice to work without a contract while you're bargaining. So don't be worried that since you've come to a initial agreement that you have to sign on the dotted line. No, because I know plenty of contracts that the UAW leadership came to the membership, we rejected, we send them back to the bargaining table. And I think that's the sense what you're getting now. Now, I don't know who the attorney here represents. Was he representing us? Okay. Well, okay. Well, I can't say how good a bargainer he is,
Come on.
but I would
all
get a
right.
second opinion.
Let's not
I'm not-
do any personal attacks, okay?
It's not a
We've seen
personal
enough of that
attack.
tonight.
It's-
Well, you're
it's just a
questioning his
feeling,
integrity
but
and his professionalism. So,
Pardon me, I apologize.
All right.
Okay?
I mean,
So anyway, it's good that you're revisiting the issue. These are the people you represent. Okay, the people out in the audience, and they made themselves clear. So please revisit that issue, renegotiate that contract, sign a good deal that'll help the firefighters, the police, and the community. And I thank you so much.
Thank you.
My name's Andrew Miller. I talked earlier tonight. First off, I would like to thank you guys for postponing the decision so we can get more information. This year, tonight is kind of weird that we have low number of chairs. If possible, can we bring out the larger number of chairs so people don't have to sit on the floor during these meetings? One other thing before I get into my idea is, Bob, you said that we're supporting this electric car charger out here. I would say 95% of us owe our livings to the gasoline-powered car. I would suggest that we also get a subsidized gas station up front so that we can subsidize our livelihoods. We have been told that we need to keep the current board because of their experience. Looking at the election costs, we need new blood. The way we've always done it is costing us. Historically, election costs were a little over $100,000 per year. That increased to $300,000 in 2022, and in 2024, that's up to $600,000. I agree that the voting laws have increased the cost, but these costs are out of line compared to our neighbors. From the 4 years that we looked at, we're twice as expensive cost dollars per vote compared to other neighboring areas when we're talking about early voting, and sometimes 4 to 5 times more expensive. Surely we can do better for managing our citizens' money. We need to work with other municipalities to develop a best practice to reduce costs while maintaining services. One expense that stands out this year is $50,000 that we spend at the Church of the Risen Christ, where Jerry's wife goes. Yes, the church needs some added income. Most churches do. Maybe we should have a lottery for the next year to see who can get this grant. Even crazier, maybe we should have competitive bid process to award the contract. But spending $50,000 for an off-site center to collect 400 votes seems to be a bit expensive. With more people utilizing the mail-in ballots, we no longer need 12 distinct voting locations. In the Detroit elections where I've worked, it is common to have 4 precincts and 1 gymnasium. In addition to saving the rent, special equipment was shared and further reducing costs. In addition, the Michigan legislature has authorized the consolidation of precincts for non-primary elections, further saving costs. For example, on our primary votes. This brings me to the last subject where Jerry wants to have an off-site voting counting facility. That is so wrong in so many ways. One is it's going to be expensive, and more importantly,
your time is up. We
learned from TCF
Gotta play
that
by the
we
rules.
need to have open and fair counting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Bill Pine, 46-year resident. I'm here to talk today about the deluge of Kurt's giant postcards and scams. When I first started getting the postcards, I wondered what the common element was. Then I remembered Kurt scamming a group of us older veterans at the friendship station and realized that the cards are all a part of a scam being run by Kurt on township residents. A scam starts with an element of truth and then goes on to whatever the scammer thinks they can get away with. This scam card talks to trustees. It says they want us to be active in our, they need to be active in our community and have the education, commitment, and life experiences to make good decisions, which is absolutely true. It also says that they're outstanding candidates, common sense leaders with no drama, which is great, who are on his team, which is the scam. Kurt's criteria for the membership on his team appears to be that his trustees will be completely under his control, as he allegedly bragged to the Northville Downs folks in October 2022, as described in detail on page 5 of the Northville Downs lawsuit, which is available on the Stop the Racetrack website. The criteria, objective criteria, need to be time as a township resident, applicable professional technical experience, practical application of that experience, deep commitment and history with the township, looking forward into the future, independence and integrity. Because of that, it sounds like you're almost making an endorsement for the people who are not on your team, Kurt. This scam card talks about promises made, promises kept, which is a great aspiration. The scam on the front is that Kurt says it's for the township taxpayers, because it's not. It's really for his out-of-town donors who are contributing because he's either done something for them or getting ready to do so. Myers, the big bosses of unions, builders, other outside businesses, wealthy Superior Township residents, and most troubling, Northville Downs and their attorney Mike Cox, who Kurt called a close friend in his podcast last week. But in the same podcast, Kurt said it's always all about the money, so it actually makes sense. The back of this card has so many scams, I don't have to talk about all of them. The most efficient way to address them is that there is a lot of dust being thrown in the air by Kurt to distract from his actual performance. However, the overarching scam is that he's turning the township around and leading a cultural change at Township Hall. He was elected 8 years ago to get rid of a previous township official, now deceased, who was a bad actor. About 2.5 months ago, I personally watched Kurt, along with hundreds of other people, scream at and threaten the older lawyer for Salem Township in his surgical neck brace at a state meeting regarding the waste treatment plant at Northridge Church. The older fellow's transgression was that he exposed the fact that Kurt had helped cause the waste treatment plant problem. A video of him doing that and then smiling after he'd done so is actually widely available online today. The scam is he doesn't say what direction he's turning the township around to and whether the culture change is better or worse. The actual assessment of these two considerations is that Kurt is actually worse than the previous official he was elected to get rid of and is causing a cultural change in our community, which will be devastating if not corrected.
I'm up already. Oh, okay. Okay.
Hello, Howard Hamrick again. Good evening to all. As a Plymouth Township voter of over 25 plus years, I have not witnessed so many one-sided personal attacks in the media, campaign literature, and on social media. I view this type of innuendo, bullying, mis- and disinformation, insulting and demeaning to our community. Where is diversity, equity, and inclusion? Or just plain old-fashioned civility? We've not had elections like this in the past. I've seen many of you run before. I've voted for many of you. I'm sorry to say, this has degraded into a very, very sad situation. This behavior is from a slate that is running scared from its own record. You should have been protecting home value, improving quality of life, addressing voter concerns, standing up against big money interests. Other communities know how to do it. What they do to the state with M5 for years and years and years. Don't tell me it can't be done. Oakland County knows how to do it. Maybe you should go there and visit them. Protecting our most valuable asset, our taxable land, which is getting smaller and smaller every day. Stop the giveaways. You should be carefully dissecting each planning request with due diligence, well-documented safety, traffic, infrastructure, and environmental impact without the usual, we saw it again today. I thought this was new business, but I guess it's just plain old business again. We will get back to you on that. Upon very limited review of the voting records in this particular region, it is clear we are not your grandfather's Republican voting community. We are a learned independent voting electorate. Some Democratic candidates feel it's time for a change. They will get their opportunity in November because they're unopposed. This August 6th, I urge my fellow voters in this community to vote in a Republican primary and oust the slate. The question is, you sell living here, not them. Are you happier living here today than you were a few years ago? Northville residents certainly are happy. They got rid of the track and they got $30 million in the bank thanks to that. As Delbert said in the cartoon character, change is good. And it's time for a change on August 6, 2024. Thank you for your attention.
I guess all you guys know me. I've been trashed, probably next to Mr. Crummy, and the only office I'm running for is precinct delegate, so I don't know why. But anyways, I tried to talk about this last time, but my phone decided to ring.
Kurt Heisey is harassing and intimidating Kermit voters. He posted the following, which is far from the truth. I quote, Kurt Heisey, it's all about the desperate campaign has left. Voter intimidation and intimidation of First Amendment free speech rights. Let us know when they come for you. Get and retain their phone numbers. Get their name and phone numbers and pass it along to me. We will alert the Attorney General. On the same day, Mr. Heisey harassed and intimidated a Kermit supporter who happens to be a friend of mine. His unsolicited text message the other day after he did a stalker drive-by and questioned my Kermit sign in my yard turned into a volley of messages back and forth I found rather unbecoming of a leader of Plymouth Township. It's obvious he's been infected with dirty money and now realizes his job is on the line. So he's grasping for straws with intimidation and bully tactics. He unfriended me on Facebook and blocked me after I hurt his feelings. He's rude to residents, tells people to shut up during public meetings, and open us up to litigation with the residents on the hook for his bad decisions. I can't believe I stood out in the rain with an A-frame begging residents to vote for him by making him a write-in candidate because it couldn't fill out the form completely to begin. So he's also been harassing some of my neighbors. And then evidently years ago, here's one of his police reports. He was going up the porches and throwing off his opponent's literature and replacing it with his. That's only one of the police reports that I found in the police department here. Thank you.
What the hell that was?
Thank you for the support on HVA.
No, I can't.
I just have a quick question. So who put in the contract, the union contract, the HVA recommendation to get rid of HVA? Was that the union that put that forth?
That's.
Fire chief, right?
No.
So what's the
First of all, this is a collective bargaining agreement that is negotiated by the parties, and we consult with the board and through our attorney in a closed session, and we're not going there.
It's just a fair question to understand the origin of something. That's all that was.
The parties.
It's a fair question to ask the origin of something.
Who do you think? Maybe it was the union. Maybe
I was just questioning the origin. I don't understand how these contracts come about. So it's a fair question.
Contracts are negotiated in good faith by the parties when they have a lawyer at the table too, and we've been negotiating with them. So
it's a lawyer, their lawyer, and then you, and then is there anyone else in that meeting? Who else is in?
Okay, so it's usually 4 or 5 members of the bargaining team for the union and their attorney. It's usually me, the chief, and our attorney for the township.
That's what I was just wondering. And then just as a side note, words spoken and written, they need to be truthful. So it's been a really problem election. I have never seen the likes of what has come into my home on handouts. Atrocious, actually. Shameful. For people to say such things about other people who have very good reputations and who have worked diligently for this township for a number of years. And I think it's pretty sad to try to win by any means necessary, because that's what I'm seeing. We win a fair election fairly by the issues, and we don't belittle people to get to the end that we desire. It's not right. And another thing, we're not voting for a slate. So just so all of you know, we're voting for individuals. Plymouth Township residents are very intelligent people. They're not voting for a slate. So just to clarify that, you're all being weighed individually for your positions based on your performance for the residents.
Hello, everyone. My name is Paul Schultz. I spoke earlier. When the election season first started off, I received a letter from Mr. Heisey reminding us, all the candidates, about the sign ordinances, election sign ordinances. And yet I see that if I made a mistake and placed some of my signs on public right-of-ways, it seems that someone from the township has picked them up and brought them to the DPW yard. Yet they won't touch several of your guys' signs that are in public right-of-ways and bring them to the DPW yard. Apparently, my signs go there, but yours don't. And there's many, many of your signs.
Because you have more illegal signs up than all of us put together, sir.
Excuse me?
And we know that. You have more illegal signs than everybody else put together. So are we, come on, man.
Well, why don't we have, why isn't
that mean? How mean?
Why isn't your ordinance officer pulling your signs up? And Mr. Vorbus?
Because ours are probably put the right way.
And Ms.
Mine
Ms.
have
Monahan.
No. You're
No,
not
no,
going to
no,
attack
mine
me
have
on
been
that.
picked
Look, go look, who put them up?
No, they are not on any illegal property.
And we ask
Well, you know
permission
what? I
too.
will
We
send
ask
you where they
permission
are.
too. You
Then
don't.
Maybe you're not aware they're
You
there.
don't. You don't.
Sir, I
Your
can tell
junk's
you
everywhere.
from experience that my friend next door here called me personally to tell me that some of my signs, I'm a newbie to this, that some of my signs were put in the wrong place. I immediately went out myself and pulled them.
And if you have
minutes.
those locations, then please tell me, because.
Take a picture.
Let
I
me know.
definitely will.
I'll take them off, because I've been very diligent in making sure that nothing has been on, against the ordinance.
Well, it's just funny that, the ordinance officers, you're not collecting those signs, but you're collecting ours. So maybe we should have the ordinance officer do his job.
Okay, thanks.
I'm not done yet.
Oh.
There's been threats and intimidation and election interference going on, and it's unwanted by a lot of residents in the community, some who are running for office. And I think really should put an end to it, whoever that is, because there are several high-profile attorneys keeping a good eye on this. So please, no threats, no intimidation, and no election interference, wherever that's coming from. Thank you.
Okay.
I take it this is movable?
Yep.
Never knew.
Speak into it.
I will. Loud enough? Yes. Kurt, you have stated in a podcast, Mary Pine, that you're a strong supervisor. However, the fact of the matter is that you yourself have only one vote on the board. This explains the maneuvering you do to obtain obviously compliant handpicked board members. Is your PAC funding other candidates' campaign expenses? In that vein, you have also appointed the current treasurer who was not elected after Mark Clinton's stroke and a trustee who was not elected. A reasonable concern is that with multiple common knowledge health problems from your team, are you conniving to put others who would not be electable in these roles if there are resignations such as your economic development coordinator who threatened to put something besides the racetrack in that would make you cry and to fill up all the green space? That is a disturbing and unacceptable thought. Have you tried to influence the treasurer candidate from running? Having been transparent about the 11 years I've been recovering from an acquired brain injury and neurosurgery, not to be a quadriplegic from being rear-ended, I have to wonder if you are taking advantage of anyone. Also, the fire department and HVA came to our rear-end accident. No comments for HVA. Long letter to the fire department. I was knocked out. Pragmatically speaking, your team and your ability to direct their decisions and those of the planning consultant and the planning commission leave little room for confidence that the resident choices would stay the course. Pragmatically speaking, your inability to do the data-based analysis and benchmarking leaves no confidence in the justifiability of your decisions. Pragmatically speaking, the running of our township involves nonpartisan issues. Residents choose to live in Plymouth Township for the wholesome family community with green space, low traffic, low crime. Your non-transparent project, disregarding zoning and master plan, have wreaked havoc and generated a $10 million lawsuit. We do not need any more maneuvering of self-serving politicians. We do not need problem creators. We need problem solvers who think, analyze data, plan ahead for the future, and make transparent decisions with integrity for our family community. This person will respect the honest and sincere work of township employees doing their jobs without games and manipulation, and has the integrity not to be questioned on intent. Pragmatically speaking, I ask the residents to prioritize our family community, the one you chose, so that it will still exist. Because this is a primary vote, one can only vote one party and not split the ticket. By voting Republican and not voting for Heisey and his team, you are choosing a path with integrity to preserve our family community. In November, partisan issues can be addressed. Chuck Kermey, Andrew Miller, Janai Stepp, Sandy Groth, John Stewart, Dan Callahan, and Paul Schultz understand the value of this community. Thank you.
Gary Smith, President of Plymouth Township. I have a couple questions on the negotiations of this contract. Whose briefs was the HVA in?
With what?
When they were exchanging briefs for that contract, whose had the HVA? Was it the township or was it the fire department?
I don't know what you're talking about.
They were not in the negotiations. HVA was not part of the negotiations.
I know, but it was brought up in the negotiations.
What was?
So HVA, because it's in the contract.
Yeah.
Somebody wanted it. Who wanted it? Was it the fire department or was it the township?
Well, things are brought up at the table by both sides, economic and non-economic.
Whose side brought it up?
It's part of the collective bargaining process. It's not done because it's not
It's a
done
yes
in
or
the
no
street.
question.
Because it's confidential, because it's part of the negotiating process.
It's not confidential.
Yeah, it is.
Once it's brought
That's
on the
why
table, it's there.
That's why
I negotiated union contracts.
Good for you. Okay, so have I.
Good for you.
Okay, so I don't know why you're so angry. I mean,
I'm not angry. I'm just asking.
If you know how the contracts are negotiated, then you know that they are done, frankly, behind closed doors. That's why we meet in closed session to go over those contracts, which we did.
We bring it back to the body to let them know what they want.
And we went back to the body today and we decided to postpone it. I mean,
it was already in a contract.
It's a tentative agreement. It's a draft. I mean, you should know that if you've negotiated contracts. Come on.
You're lost.
Good try.
You don't want to
Nice
answer
try.
a question.
Nice try. Okay. All right. Are we all set? Are we all set now? Okay. All right. So don't flip me the bird, sir. That's not appropriate. Okay. Board comments. I'm just going to throw it up if anybody wants to say anything.
Yes, I do. I do.
Next meeting is August 27th.
August 27th.
Yes, because we need this room for the election. Jerry, any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Thank you so much for coming.
Wait a minute, Mr. Clerk has the roll.
I've got the
Clerk
floor.
has the table, he has the table.
People have mentioned a large number, a percentage number for tax increases in the township and have attributed that to either one person on this board or the board in its entirety. The fact is, we have not raised taxes since we've been here. What has happened is there's been inflation going on for several years. Your taxes went up this year 5%. Your property taxes did. That's based on inflation. We didn't raise them. That's because of the inflation. It's in Proposition A. Proposition A says your taxes can only go up three ways. One is the inflation is over 5%, it can go up to 5%, or whatever that inflation is if it's less than that. Prior, for 30 years, it was always below 3%. The past 3 years now, it's been 5%, and that's what the increases have been. The only other way we can raise taxes, besides those two ways, is if we have a vote by the public to do it. That happened in 2018 when we voted for a millage for police and fire. We didn't raise it, we put it before the public.
That's the only way that we can raise taxes. The taxes have been going up, but they've been going up because of inflation, and that's controlled by Prop A. Additionally, the statutes allow for a
Tax administration
tax
fee?
administration fee, which this body voted on. And it has gone down before. When the previous treasurer was here, he made sure he calculated how much the expense was for the assessing department and the treasury department, and it went down. And it's doing that again this time. We only charge what it costs to actually do that. You can't charge more than it actually costs in this government. Someone brought up the cost of elections. Guess what? The public, by a vast majority, voted for mass changes in the electoral process in this state. And it's costing hundreds of millions of dollars in the state. No one protested that when they voted for it. Over 60% of the public in this community voted for those changes. It is the clerk's department and this board's job to administer those elections. We have no room or other facilities in which to hold early voting. This room is used for the AV vote counting board. And we've had to use this room because of the change in the laws in 18, which allowed for no reason absentee voting, which caused a doubling of the number of people who vote absentee. We have to, by law, have a place in order to do the early voting. We have no facility to do that. So the Friendship Station is not big enough, neither is the parking lot. And you will see that.
That's not a debate.
And you will see that. And you have to have a location for a second ballot box because the law requires that we have it. And we have to set up cameras, security for that. And that was done at the location where the early voting center is because they had a parking lot and driveway that facilitated a turnaround, U-shaped area to ease the ability for people to come in and drop the box, ballots in the box. Nothing has gone on here in the electoral process that has not been necessary, required by statute, by the legislature, or by the vote of the people. The costs are the costs. The costs are not inflated. We had to buy new equipment because the law requires it. We can't use the same voting equipment for the precinct voting that we use in early voting. It's in the law. We were forced to buy more equipment. I have no control over that. My job is to administer that. And that's what we've done. We've done it effectively. We've done it efficiently, and all of our precincts balance. We don't have any fraud here. When someone tries to commit fraud here, I've caught them and we've prosecuted them. So we have very clean, safe elections, and guess what? The Dominion voting equipment does not flip votes, Mr. Miller. And guess what? There is no fraud here in Plymouth Township, and everything is run according to Hoyle here. And that is the fact. Additionally, I know everybody on this board. I know that both Bob and Kurt and myself, Jen, I've seen her information. I've seen Monahan's. There's nothing that's been put out by me or any of these other people I just mentioned in any literature that is not factual. It's 100% factual. And provable in courts of law. And so you cannot like it, and sometimes you can, the truth hurts, but that is a fact.
Okay, Gary, since you brought it up, the Risen Christ Church has announced that they're going to have the school filled up. How are you going to deal with that in November with the school children in the building?
Because we have first right of refusal for the space that we need.
I know, but the kids are gonna be in the building, so you're gonna have to manage them for
Well,
security?
No, because it's being separated. There's a wall being built to
Oh, so
separate them.
there's the answer. They're
Yeah.
building a wall?
Yes.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
the question
Yeah.
answered.
And-
Second thing is, for the ballot box, maybe we could use Township Park, which has a loop road, right? When you come in, you turn right, and not now, it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
But you turn right and you go around the loop and you come right back out. That would be a good spot for a ballot box. It's at the other end of McClumpa.
I think a good idea is to build a facility there that is a multi-use facility that we can use for other things and only use it for election. I never said build a facility only for election. I said build a facility for elections, and then you would use that facility for that. Again, we would have to change the park rules so that we don't lock the doors, because the ballot box has to be available 24/7.
It's open most of the time now. We could put another gate or something.
Well, we would, see, there's a lot of things that go into this. It's not just done willy-nilly.
I understand.
And so this was foisted upon us, and we had to make decisions right away. You cannot change during a presidential election where you vote. You can't consolidate the process. The new law that was passed just last year allows us to do that in the future. And we've got that plan. That is our plan, to consolidate those things.
Okay.
Because it's allowed by law. Before that, it was not allowed. You had to give notice, 180 days, and you can't do that in a presidential election.
Okay. Mr. Stewart, did you have something to say? No, we're all set? Anybody else?
No.
Need a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made by trustee Monahan, is there a second?
Second.
Second by clerk Borba. All those in favor of adjournment, signify by saying aye.
Aye.